On September 21st, we have a solar eclipse in the sign of Virgo. Solar eclipses are moments, they're like new moons on steroids, and they can bring a new idea, a new way of understanding yourself. This particular eclipse doubles down on that idea because it falls in the last part of Virgo, a part of Virgo that's associated with the idea of individuation. Individuation being this term that was coined by Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, about the very natural human process of stepping into your life, going on an adventure, having experiences where sometimes you kind of fall on your face and you make mistakes. But in doing that, you can come to know who you are and then integrate those lessons and expand your sense of who you are. We're going to talk about how the Ten of Pentacles card really brings out that idea of individuation, and that's the card associated with where this eclipse falls. So there's a lot to unpack. If you enjoy the video, like and subscribe. It helps people find my content. So I'm going to bring up the whiteboard I created to help teach about this eclipse. I'm finding whiteboards are really great because astrology is so complex. There's so much to learn. We're always learning as we go. So let's just start off with what's a solar eclipse? It's this moment when the sun appears to disappear from the sky. And the sun has to do with our vision. It's the light. It's our consciousness, right? It's the things that we know as opposed to the things that are in the background that maybe we don't understand, that darkness, right? The sun is the light. And so when the sun appears from the sky, disappears from the sky and then reappears, it's almost like a reboot of your computer. New information can come in. And then let's just talk about Virgo. What's the sign about? Virgo is a mutable earth sign. Mutable has to do with flexibility. Earth has to do with what's pragmatic. What can we build? What can we create in the world? What's possible? What's achievable? And Virgo's ruled by Mercury, the trickster of the zodiac, a planet that can see all the little details. There's something about the Virgo energy when you put Mercury and Earth together, where you have people with planets or points like the ascendant or midheaven in Virgo, that they're going to be good at finding errors, let's say, finding the ways in which the material world or what they've created or even who they are falls a little short because they have an eye for detail. And I want to hold that really lightly because sometimes, of course, I have a lot of planets in Virgo, so I know this really well. There can be something about Virgo that can come across as judgmental. But if we understand the idea of judgment, not as in saying somebody's good or bad, or it's not good enough, instead saying somebody with Virgo energy can see the potential for something to be whole. So they want to improve it. So it might be the person who is able to, like my husband's a really great chef and he'll cook an amazing meal. And I'll be like, well, honey, what if you added just a little bit of this spice or took away a little bit of that other spice the next time? It might make it even better. And it's not out of a sense of wanting to criticize him. I love the dish that he's offering me. It's more like, oh, we could make this even better. So holding that kind of lightly, if you encounter that Virgo energy, understanding that can be good. So when we have a solar eclipse in this sign of Virgo, there could be some new idea or way of relating to that Virgoan desire to improve in whatever area of your chart Virgo falls. At the end of this video, we're going to give you an example so that you can understand how this might affect you personally. One other thing before we move on to the tarot card that's associated with this decan or part of the zodiac is to understand that this eclipse in particular could be a little tense. And it could bring up stuff from the background, from the unconscious for us to process. I say that because Mars, the god of war, and Saturn, the god of restrictions, hard work, and responsibility, are in a tense aspect to each other. It's called an inconjunct. They're five houses. We're 150 degrees ish away from each other. And whenever planets are in that kind of position, they don't share anything in common. It's almost like they miss each other. And this can be an indication of turmoil in the background because Mars and Saturn are the two most difficult planets in our chart. And so understanding that as you're working through whatever's coming up for you, this new idea or new way of being, that maybe it's precipitated in some way by some stuff coming up for you in the background that you don't quite understand. But, and also, I always say that one of the best ways to encounter energy that's unconscious is through some sort of meditative practice, if you can, where if something's feeling a little off for yourself and you don't quite know what it is, sitting down, slowing down, taking a walk, meditating, and getting quiet to allow that message to come up from the unconscious, to come up from your intuition that might guide you around the meaning of that energy. The other reason I say that this eclipse might be a little tense is it's at the anaretic degree of Virgo, that very last degree of any sign. It has a tense quality. It's almost as if the planets are trying to finish up the very last lesson in that sign. So there's a little push, right? And so it can feel like a pressure. We also see, of course, that Mars also is in the anaretic degree of its sign, Libra, during that eclipse. So just adding that energy in. And so then let's look at the tarot card that's associated with this decan of the zodiac. When I say decan, I'm always talking about 10 degrees. Every sign is broken up into three decans. So from 20 to 30 Virgo is the 10 of Pentacles is the card that's associated with it. And this card, the Ten of Pentacles, we can see a couple of things. First, tens always relate to Malkuth in the Kabbalistic tree of life, which is and in fact, we see the tree of life represented in this card. The people who designed the cards were looking to include esoteric wisdom in the card to help us understand the meaning of the card as well as its association with this part of the zodiac. So here we see the tree of life, Keter at the top, and down here, Malkut at the bottom. And what happens with the tree of life is energy descends and we integrate it through the course of our life and we make it manifest in the real world down here at the 10th pentacle or the 10th sephira on the tree of life. So, doubling down on that idea of integrating and manifesting energy in our life and individuating through that process of experiencing life, we see that the person represented in the card, this is Odysseus from the Odyssey. At the very end of the Odyssey, if you know the story, he returns home, an old man. His family does not recognize him, but the dogs do, and we can see that represented in the card. So this is how we know in part that this part of the zodiac has something to do with that idea of wanting to engage with life in a way where we confront our unconscious, we confront our psyche and the parts of ourselves that we don't understand. And in the process, we expand the sense of who we are. This is the idea of individuation. And I'm going to read just a little bit about how the Odyssey exemplifies the individuation process. So it serves as an allegory for individuation. So if you know anything, first I should explain. In the Odyssey, what happens is Odysseus goes off on a journey across the world and encounters different figures, demons and giants, and he grapples with different experiences and comes to know who he is as a result of having these big experiences. And then at the end, of course, as I said, he returns home, kind of a different and bigger man. He's individuated, come to know himself. So the myth of the Odyssey serves as an allegory for individuation, the psychological journey toward a unified and authentic self. Remember, I believe I said that the idea of Pisces and Virgo is all about wanting to become whole. For Virgo, it's wholeness in the material plane, becoming more of who you are. For Pisces, it's wholeness more on the spiritual plane. So, the psychological journey toward a unified and authentic self. Odysseus's trials in the Odyssey symbolize confrontations with aspects of his psyche, such as the lotus eater's temptation to escape reality. If you know the Odyssey, part of the journey is he's tempted to eat these lotuses, all his companions do, and they fall asleep. And so that's the process, or represents the idea that as human beings, there are moments where we just want to get the hell out of here because it feels like life is too much. So we're going to zone out in front of, the TV or scanning the internet, or we're going to have a drink, that kind of thing. So the ways in which we can fall asleep rather than staying present to our life. So you have the lotus eater's temptation to escape reality, and then he confronts a cyclops, and that represents the embodiment of ego and primal instincts grappling with the desire to survive kind of thing, is represented by that encounter, and so on. So he has all these journeys that expand who he is. These challenges force Odysseus to confront his flaws, desires, limitations, and foster self awareness and growth. So, this is Virgo 3, the last decan of Virgo. I'm going to do a video on this. I have a series on the 36 decans of the zodiac that I'm doing. I'll drop a link to that. It'll come out in a couple of days, but I'll combine it with the video. Yeah, so that's the energy of what might be coming up for you. Whatever area of your life where Virgo and Pisces fall, whatever topics are coming up, this new moon solar eclipse may bring an opportunity for you to get some new understanding of who you are, to integrate something that maybe came up during the first eclipse, during this eclipse season. What are you learning about yourself in these areas of the chart? How might you be compassionate toward yourself? Use that Pisces energy to accept where you may fall short, but then also allow you to become a bigger person in that topic area. A little hard to describe that, but I'm hoping you're getting the vibe. One last thing is Mercury and Venus rule this particular deck, and Venus is in its fall in this part of the zodiac. That makes it kind of being in a her being in a strange place. Venus is the goddess of love and beauty. And so there can be a little bit of sadness that can come along with this letting go of old parts of who we are that happens with the individuation process. There's a death kind of process that comes along with this for the ego very naturally. So you can think about that a little bit. So then let's move on to the last slide, which is going to give you one example for Gemini risings. I just happened to pick them as an example of how this eclipse might affect them personally. So for people that are Gemini rising, that means the eclipse is going to fall in their fourth house and will also affect their 10th house. You see the eclipse down here at the bottom in Virgo in the fourth house. The fourth house is the bottom of our chart. It has to do with home, family, ancestry. And the 10th house is at the top of our chart, has to do with career, what we're known for, what we do out in the world. When the eclipse falls in these two parts of the zodiac, there can be a way in which we're learning lessons about letting go in one area of our life, and so that we can move into another. So people who are Gemini risings, but also people who are Sagittarius risings, the eclipses are falling in the 4th and 10th for them as well. So the eclipse season might be about negotiating or new learning around home and career. The ways in which sometimes we have to let go or come to some new understanding about the meaning of career for us, so that we can step more fully into demands that are being made of us in the fourth house area of home and family, or vice versa. So that's the axis affected for Gemini and Sagittarius. If you're a Virgo or a Pisces rising, that's where the eclipses are happening. So that means the eclipses are in your first house of who you are, where your rising sign is, or your and your seventh house. I say eclipses because they always come in pairs, one on the Virgo side, one on the Pisces. So it'll be first and seventh house. So you might be coming up to these new understandings around who you are and your relationship with partner. There might be a negotiation there. Some learning through partner about who you are is oftentimes people who have eclipses in this part of the zodiac, or if in your birth chart you have the nodes of the moon in the first and the seventh, one of the ways that you learn about yourself is through your partner. So we can also look at the other houses, third and ninth, 11th and fifth, second and eighth, 12th and 6th. That's for the other rising signs. If you want to know a little bit more about where this particular eclipse might fall for you, just drop a note in the comments with what your rising sign is, and I'll be happy to share some more information. If you want to figure out your rising sign, you can look up your chart on astroseek.com. I'll also drop a link to a video I made about how to do this. So I hope this was useful for you. If you did like it, it'd be great if you liked and subscribed to my channel. I'm trying to grow it right now. I love doing this. I love to teach. So I'll see you all in a couple of weeks for the full moon. Have a great day.